Hello and welcome back, adventurers. Today, we look at one of the choices I didn't dive too deeply into in any of my videos around the Necromancer yet, and that's Puppeteer versus Reaper. And this isn't about telling you which is better or anything like that. And today, we're only really going to focus on one of them. No, today I want to talk about what makes the Puppeteer great and what features, what aspects of the Necromancer really pop out, what choices can be critical, and what can take the most advantage of what the Puppeteer has to offer before the next video being about the Reaper. Same thing. What is it the Reaper has to offer that the Puppeteer doesn't, and how do different feats, features, and focus spells really play into that? But before we can even jump into any of that, I feel like we should look at one thing real quickly because it plays a big role in both sides, and that's the Grave Cantrip Create Thrall. So keep in mind that Create Thrall is one action, has a range of 30 feet, and then your thralls you create last a minute. So either you're going to create two thralls in empty squares within range, or you're going to create one thrall in an empty square in range, but then you can immediately command that thrall after you create it. So those are your two options. Keeping that in mind, let's talk about the Puppeteer. So, what is it that the Puppeteer really does? Actually, back up. What is it that Fatal Method, the feature, is all about? The Fatal Method feature is just choose between Puppeteer and Reaper. At least that's what it is right now. Who knows in the future? And these offer what seem like maybe subtle differences at first, but end up playing a huge role in how you play your Necromancer. And that's why I think it deserves a little more attention. And I thank those who commented on my video, kind of looking for a little deeper thought into those. And I'm not going to offer any kind of definitive thought into them because it's me. And if you watched my videos before, you know that I'm happy to help out, but oh boy, am I not an expert on anything, especially not this. But let's go ahead and give it a shot anyway. So, what does the Puppeteer choice at level 1 in your Fatal Method do? Well, there's two parts to the Puppeteer. First, you get Consume Thrall. This is a free action you can use once per day, and it requires that you have a Thrall within 30 feet of you and that you have no focus points left. Then you destroy one Thrall in 30 feet, and you gain a focus point back. You can only use that focus point to fuel a grave spell, your focus spells. That's actually not the bigger part of this. I mean, it sounds like the more dramatic piece, but it's not the part that you're going to get the most out of. No, that comes with Thrall Proliferation. This says that once per round, when you cast Create Thrall, you get one additional Thrall in range. This means that when you would create two Thralls, you're going to get a third. It also means when you would create one Thrall and command it, you're going to create two Thralls and command one of those Thralls. I don't think you get to command both. I'm pretty sure you still get to just command one, but you still get an additional Thrall. You are generating more Thralls than the Reaper. For comparison, I want to show Reaper here in this video, and then in the next video, we'll just talk about Reaper. I'm not going to talk about Reaper in here, but I'm going to bring it up. So Reaper's Edge, which is the first feature, gives you training in martial weapons and medium armor. Keep in mind, normally Necromancer has simple weapons and light armor only. And then these become expert martial weapons at 11 and expert medium armor at 13. This is pretty standard non-martial stuff. So normally, your simple weapons are going up at 11 as well. Your light armor at 13. Now, the more important part is Thrall teamwork. Once per turn, after you cast Create Thrall, you can make a melee strike against a creature in melee range of you, in your melee reach, whether it's, you could have reach weapon, but you have to be within melee, as a free action, but it has to be adjacent to at least one of your thralls. So just keep that in mind. These are the two different. Now let's go ahead and focus on the Puppeteer. Okay, so our baseline is kind of caster versus Gish in a way, right? It's not saying you can't use weapons as a Puppeteer, and it's not saying you can't lean into spellcasting as a Reaper, but it's not how it's set up to be. So while it's not strictly true or anything, that's kind of what it leans you toward. However, both feel like you can get a lot more than that kind of setup out of them, right? No matter what you choose, you are still a spellcaster. That doesn't change that. You're going to have solid focus spells. Doesn't change that. But the Puppeteer's design does make it more of a generalist of the two. You've got more thralls available to you, which means that you can do more with them, right? You got more options of how you can sacrifice them, and there's certain features they plan to where, as they're destroyed, you get bonuses from them. Now, that one extra focus point you get per day can be meaningful in a pinch if you're really leaning into your focus points, and you really should, right? Because you can replenish them between combats, assuming you have some downtime, and you can replenish more as a necromancer than others by sacrificing a thrall, which is easy. So, yeah, I think that it's good to lean into using them. So the once per day thing isn't that meaningful compared to the fact that you're getting more thralls every turn when you're using Create Thrall, and you're going to use Create Thrall a lot. There's a good reason to use it a lot. So keep in mind you'll have just more thralls out on the battlefield, and you're positioning them where you want them to be. Well, let's go ahead and go through our features and our feats and our focus spells and talk about certain ones that really stand up and make the most use of having these advantages, right? So we have our spellcasting. And when you're not attempting to strike, that means you've got more actions available for your spellcasting. So you're probably better capable of taking advantage of things like AoE spells, control spells. You're probably doing bigger things that are on a single round, big use spells than you're going to see out of a Reaper. This is really set up well for it. So you can create a lot of thralls. You can even use your thralls for various things and still have some room left for some spell casting. And that's something you definitely want to lean into, right? You're creating your thralls, and it could just be that on a round or two, you even create three thralls and then throw out a spell and not even use the thralls, but you might have reason just to create them alone. And we'll talk about a little bit why that might be. But you're generating this backlog, right? This cache of thralls out on the battlefield that you can use for things, but they can also just be in the way. Yes, they can be pushed out of the way. They are still difficult terrain, though. They can be destroyed. That's not necessarily a bad thing in case of a lot of situations. That could be actually a very good thing. So, creating thralls and then throwing out spells is actually pretty valuable. More than that, you've also got some other built in features you can really use, two of which are grave spells. Well, one grave spell and one grave cantrip that you just get by default at level one. And it starts off with Necrotic Bomb. So, Necrotic Bomb is, it's a decent little focus spell using AoE, and you're going to really want to set up your thralls in good places to take most advantage of that. I mean, it's a decent turn to go ahead and spend one action creating thralls, set one of those right next to a couple of enemies. Last two actions, just Necrotic Bomb, blow them up. There's nothing wrong with that. That's some decent AoE damage, and you're using one of your thralls, you still have two left. Feels pretty good. Or heck, because you are a puppeteer, you could just create two thralls, let one make a strike as part of it, right? You get to command. So you set one next to two enemies. It strikes out, maybe get a little extra damage off of that strike it made, and then you blow it up. You still have one sitting off to the side there you can use for later things, but you got a lot out of the other one that got to strike and then you blew it up. A lot of flexibility because you're making extra thralls. You still want one out on the battlefield. You don't really want to be in the case as a necromancer where you have no thralls out. That actually does hinder you, especially if you get to a turn and you want to do something like, cast a spell with two actions and then still be able to do something with a thrall, but you don't want to use the focus point or anything like that. You can just use your thrall and command it. It just gets to strike, or it just gets to move up to an enemy or something, move out of range. So there's value in using those as well, like that. And it's going to be way easier for you as a puppeteer to do that sort of thing. But then we have your other grave cantrip this time, and in this case, you're going to be taking two actions to have a thrall move up to something and then strike, but you're going to get extra damage on that strike. Now, is it always going to be the strongest play? No, it's not the strongest play necessarily, but it could still be a good one, especially if you create a couple thralls out in the battlefield. You might create two, have one strike, and take the other one, rush it over, and strike again. Multiple attack penalty hurts a little bit, but it's certainly options that you have, right? And being able to, especially with your default thralls, this isn't as important. We'll talk about some things later on where you have better thralls, and those better thralls can absolutely take advantage of that. And even when you've got other thralls you're creating out on the battlefield, commanding a really strong one for two actions is potentially a really strong choice. The last feature I want to talk about before we get into our subclasses and stuff is life and death. So, life and death lets you use harm in a different way. Now, as a Reaper, you might need to get up into it. We'll talk about how harm might affect a Reaper, but for a puppeteer is in a good position to be able to get the most out of a two action use of harm. right? Distance damage that hits okay. It hits decently hard against a creature. It's not the most powerful, but it's all right. At a baseline, I don't know that Life and Death is amazing on its own, except for it allows you to hit undead creatures and harm them with harm, which normally you'd heal them with harm, would do nothing. But now you can harm them with harm, and you're not going to accidentally heal them. So the 2 action and even the 3 action, you're in a pretty good position to use because you aren't trying to use your actions to make martial attacks. So just keep that in mind. We're going to talk about a few feats later that play with life and death, which is why I brought it up. And I do think, as we look long term, the puppeteer is in a way better place to take advantage of life and death and building off of it. But first, let's talk about our subclasses because there's a lot of overlap in how your fatal method plays in with your subclass that I didn't talk about in my subclass ranking. First up, we have blood. Blood is amazing for a puppeteer. Your thrall enhancement gives you hit points back, and it can be an incredible number of hit points if you have a lot of thralls out there. It's one per thrall, right, at level 1. But it goes up quickly enough, right? 2 at level 5, 3 at level 9. Well, when you're pumping out 3 thralls with 1 create action, yeah, okay, you're probably not gonna create thralls more than once a turn anyway. So you create your 3 thralls. Well, eventually they're gonna die. Whether you're gonna blow them up or something else is gonna destroy them, they're gonna die. So those 3 thralls you created basically heal you 3 hit points also. That's a pretty massive advantage. Getting that extra healing over the default not being a puppeteer, right? That feels really good. When you're talking about 4 to 5 rounds in a combat, talking 12 to 15 hit points at level 1, I mean, that's crazy. That's a crazy amount of healing you could potentially get out of just creating thralls and putting them in the ways of enemies or where they might get hit by AoE or things like that. Yeah, I think that's amazing. I think that's a really good setup. The focus spell here is fine. It's not particularly good for Puppeteer, versus Reaper. Like, it doesn't stand out, but it's still good. And then you've got the level 12 feat, which is even more healing, right? As long as something's bleeding, you're getting healing. And while you may not necessarily want to be within 30 feet of an enemy, you're gonna be. You're not gonna hide away on the battlefield that far because you have to be within 30 feet to do stuff with your thralls mostly. So you're probably within 30 feet of something anyway. But this way, if it ever gets up to you, you've got your thralls dying, giving you healing. You've got healing coming in from just a bleeding enemy. Yeah, all that healing, good for both of them on both sides. But you're gonna be able to pump out more of it as a puppeteer, and that's a big advantage. You are so hard to kill. Necromancer as a caster is incredibly hard to kill. Then we have Bone. Here we've got a focus spell that's actually pretty solid on a puppeteer. I think it's better on a puppeteer, right? Already, you're probably into doing some ranged damage. This is actually pretty solid ranged damage. The more I think about it, because you can set it up wherever you want. Well, you're placing 3 thralls around, or again, 2 thralls, giving you plenty of flexibility on their own while still having 1 attack. Summoning 2, using 1 to attack, and the other one to break into Bone and blast across 2 enemies with your raise spell. That's not a bad turn at all. That feels pretty good. So I already like that. Yes, you have Necrotic Bomb also, but there's a difference between that kind of AoE and a 12-foot line. They offer different styles of damage. This way you can use whichever one you want. I like having that kind of flexibility in combat. You might very much want different ones. One might avoid hitting allies better than the other one does. And then you've got the extra movement with your thralls, which I don't know that it's a huge deal here, right? In fact, I don't know that you take better advantage of it than Reaper does, but it's at least something helpful. As for the level 12 feet reinforced skeleton, I actually think that it doesn't really suit a puppeteer very well. Resistance is good no matter what, so that always helps everybody. And the speed's good, right? You always want to keep distance, but you aren't trying to get to somebody you aren't gonna like maybe miss out on an attack because you didn't gain that extra 5 feet. So I do think it's a little less geared toward puppeteer, but don't get me wrong here, right? Any resistances are going to help you out. You need to stay alive at range. As you're casting spells, creatures are going to target you. You need to stay alive. Resistances are going to help with that. And then, of course, moving farther means it's harder for them to get back to you and attack. So I'm not saying it's at all bad for the puppeteer. It's actually still a good fit. So don't get me wrong on that one. Then we have flesh, and while you may not be able to like directly take advantage of the effects of the focus spell, it's still, decent to use. The thrall enhancement is actually perfectly geared for a puppeteer, honestly. As you create more thralls and they die, you create more and more difficult terrain. So you can create 3 squares of difficult terrain per round, basically, because you can get, I promise you have plenty of ways later on, especially to really kill them off. But they're dying anyway. You're killing off, you're creating this permanent difficult terrain for an entire combat. You can fill it out in a way that a Reaper just can't, right? It's a great fit for a Puppeteer. It's just that focus spell really isn't kind of your thing. And then since you have, no need to place thralls near you generally, you could have one next to you for defenses, but you're not just going to pop that one. You're not going to just kill it off. But otherwise, you're filling the field, right? And that's ideal. I would probably skip the level 12 feet altogether, though, as a Puppeteer. It just doesn't suit you, right? You're trying to negatively impact creatures that are like surrounding you. Ideally, you're not in the case where that comes up. That's really not your thing. Spirit is all about the puppeteer, though, in my mind. You're probably staying at range as a puppeteer, and while you could create a thrall wherever you need in order to help your allies heal, it's easier to do as a puppeteer, right? You can place them around where you need. You can have more available. So when you want to use your focus spell, you can make sure you're healing the right allies or as many allies as you can only do one at a time, but make sure you can at least get them all throughout the combat. Changing the damage from a thrall is good no matter what. Nothing special for Puppeteer, but it's just good. Unless you're going to use Thrall Charge a lot more, and then changing that damage type matters a lot, right? And again, keep in mind, you are almost better equipped when you're creating just 2 Thralls instead of 3 because you're still getting 2 out of it to be able to command it to attack. That is an advantage. You're still getting more Thralls. Then the level 12 feat is spectacular. When you don't want to be locked down, this is how you get away. You can just travel through enemies. You have better ways to escape. It's a great feat, solid resistance, like amazing resistance, because you're going to be popping and destroying your thralls every turn. So yeah, I think Spirit is tailor made for Puppeteer. I think it's extremely strong here. Honestly, I think as Puppeteer, you get a lot out of every Grim Fascination, with things being a little worse for flesh than the others, but you kind of feel like you're getting everything you want out of most of them, which feels good on its own. So it's hard to go wrong with Puppeteer. Just probably not go with flesh. I'm not going to go through all the feats and all the focus spells and talking about how they apply to the puppeteer. We'd be here forever. I'm not doing that. Instead, I'm going to talk about a subset of them that I feel like really fit puppeteer nicely. That go with that play style that might to help accelerate the puppeteer or really takes advantage of what the puppeteer is able to do that the reaper can't. But before we get to the general feats, I do want to call out a couple of feats because they require Puppeteer as a prerequisite. There are two, in fact, one at level 6 and one at 16. At level 6, we have Conjurer of Corpses. And this means you get to learn the Summon Undead spell. Now, I like summon spells. So you're getting Summon Undead, but it's better than that. Your undead from this spell can still be destroyed as a thrall, like it was any other thrall, if you want it to be. And it's treated as thralls for targeting for your spells and abilities, which can mean a lot later as well. Means you can use, not that you would, you can use command and stuff on this too, like thrall charge and things like that. Again, not saying you would, but you could. You also get an extra spell slot at your highest rank possible every day just for this. So normally you only have 2 of your highest spell slots. Now you get a third, and it's just for summon undead. And you always want to summon spell cast at your highest if you want to keep up with having a decent minion. So yeah, huge fan of summon spells, and some nice added bonuses here, especially when they get lower on health. You might even choose to go with an undead that has some sort of ability that goes off when they die, because you're going to be killing them off probably as they get really low on health. That's a win all on its own. But having this makes you also feel like more of a necromancer. Honestly, you have this, it feels more necromancer. The other at level 16 is Beckoning Dirge. This is a free action once per day. You're going to choose a thrall within 60 feet. This turn, you can cast one spell from your dirge, which is that internal spell book you have, right? Even if it's not prepared, you just be in your dirge. You just have to cast it at least one spell level lower than your highest. And then the thrall that you chose within 60 feet of you is actually the origin for the spell. So you cast it from that thrall, and then the thrall is destroyed. This is amazing versatility. There are just you could have so many spells in your dirge, right? You learn spells at every level, and you can't prepare them all anyway. This says, hey, if I'm going to get up to high level, I can add things in here that are more situational that I may not even want to prepare them every day or ever, but I want them in here. And once you've got this feat, it says, I've got that situation where nothing else fits, but I have just the right spell. It's sitting here waiting to go. I'm going to cast it now. And that is something that's just so impactful. I know it's high level. I know it's once per day. But having just the right spell at just the right time is so good. And the fact that you can choose a throw within 60 feet, that kind of range, remember, it's coming from then. So it changes entirely how a spell can work in your mind. That's huge too. So these are already amazing, and I would probably take both of these if I was a puppeteer. Okay, so those are the two that require puppeteer. So what are some other ones that are just good as a puppeteer, where I think the puppeteer gets a lot out of them? Well, there's a lot, so strap in. First, we have Reach of the Dead. This allows you to cast your next spell through a thrall and then destroy it. And, this is a spell shape, right? And this is just going to be better when you have more thralls out there. You're creating more thralls. You have more options where to choose for them to be. Even if, again, you're choosing to just summon two, so you strike and then do this, you have more and you keep them out on the grid, right? So that helps you keep it with thralls about while also allowing you just to use your thralls for things like this without question. Widespread fascination is the other one, but that's everybody. It's just good. There's really good choices for your level one focus spell. It's probably worth it. Anyway, I'm not gonna do that again. All right, then at level two we have invert harm. This allows you to actually heal allies with the harm spell. The three action AoE version is certainly cool and a good use of a slot. It means it'll damage all enemies and heal all allies, which is really cool. Now, as a puppeteer, you may not be close enough to use the AoE version really well mid combat, but it means you can do it after the fact if you want to, certainly. But the two action version means you could do just a two action version heal on an ally and you have a straight up heal to do. Again, you don't get as many slots as other full casters out there, but this allows you, if you want to be posting up some solid heals. And you could focus your focus spells on the other things you want to do and do some healing for the party this way. Not saying you would need to, but this opens up that possibility. Then at 4, we've got Body Shield. It's a reaction that lets you sacrifice a thrall adjacent to you to add 2 AC when you're targeted by an attack. So this is what I mentioned way earlier on. You might just sit one next to yourself. First round in combat, sit one next to yourself. Awesome. Anytime you move and you create a thrall, create another one next to you. Good. This is just a nice way to reduce damage. Another way to prevent the need for healing. Yeah, sacrificing a thrall for 2 AC, great. If it happens to be like your blood, you might even heal as you sacrifice it. So there might be other bonuses for them dying, creating difficult terrain, things like that. Then you have mobile thralls, also at level 4. The part here that matters is you can make your thralls fly by level 8. It completely changes the way that you think about using your thralls. Once they can get airborne, and they don't have to use a fly action to stay up there, they just hover. Hovering bones around here. Means you can use them in completely different ways. When you're targeting spells through them, right? When you're trying to hit flying creatures with things with them, you can do that now because mobile thralls makes it better, and you have so many more thralls out there. It's just easier to use something like this. Then we have overwhelming harm. You couple this with your invert harm, and this adds range, and it's range to that big AoE bomb. Now using 3 actions for a harm at your highest level. If you take this, healing all allies, harming all enemies, yeah, that's gonna feel real good. That's a nice little bomb to throw out there. And again, for a puppeteer, using something like this feels like a better use of your time. Whereas Reaper may not want to do this with all 3 actions. You're happy to do it. We also have Vampiric Spell. Level 4 is just chock full of crazy things. Using 3 actions to set up and cast a damage spell is actually pretty easy for a puppeteer, right? Again, you're totally happy to spend your 3 actions not moving and doing big things with spells. You've kind of built yourself to do that. And the amount of temp HP you can build with this, if you choose the right spell, is a little bit silly. Again, you're just really hard to kill. There aren't a ton of great damage spells in the occult list, but they exist. And there's feats later on that let you add other spells that might do some hard damage that might couple with this really nicely. The next one that really leans into Puppeteer and what they're good at, though, is Reclaim Power. So you're going to sacrifice up to 3 thralls, and you regain hit points equal to your level per thrall you kill. Sacking 3, if you do all 3 at once, also means you can reduce your clumsy, enfeebled, frightened, sickened, or stupefied levels by 1. This is just tailor made for a puppeteer because your create thrall can create 3 thralls. So even when you get this, right, you're level 6. Okay, you take one action to summon 3 thralls right, with create thrall, and then another action, boom, I go ahead and sack all 3. I get healed for 18 hit points. I reduce my frightened level by 1. I use that last action to just run away. That's actually not a bad way to use a round. That's a lot of healing. Even at level 6, that's still a lot of healing. And you don't mind destroying them. If you're blood, that means at this level, you're already getting another 2 hit points per thrall. That's another 6 hit points. You're at 24 hit points you just got back. 20 hit, 24 hit points, reduced some sort of debuff you had. This just feels like a really strong option when you need some healing. And sometimes you're just going to need some healing. Then at level 10, we've got Expanded Necromancy. And this is going to add some non occult spells to your spell list. Specifically, this is adding spells to your spell list that deal damage. And you know what? The occult list struggles with that. It shouldn't be a huge problem for a puppeteer to get the most out of these spells either because you're happy to use multiple actions on big spells. And this is why I brought up Vampiric earlier. You drop some of these with Vampiric, you deal whatever it is, 40, 50, 60, 70 damage, getting a ton of temp HP on top of all this. All that's going to feel really strong, but it's just nice to have these options. Whereas, a Reaper may not want these as badly because it'll take up too much of their turn. Not for a Puppeteer. Then at level 14, we have Amalgamate. This turns 2 thralls into like this bigger, better thrall. And once again, not only is it easier for you as a Puppeteer to do that, because you could have summoned 3 thralls, amalgamate with 2, and then when you put those together, have it strike, it gets to do extra damage. And you're happy to send thralls around and have them deal damage because you've got the actions to do that. So having these bigger thralls, and this is just one example of bigger thralls, might be better for you because you could just use actions to have them go in and attack, and you're not fighting against anything else for multiple attack penalty. And finally, level 18, we got Power Hungry. This builds on the whole reclaim power thing that I talked about before, right? The level 6. Now you actually get to refill your focus pool when you do it, and you're probably using focus points all the time. Yeah, for one action, you're going to get a bunch of healing back, right? You're level 18 now, so you're getting 3 times 18 hit points back, and you're getting all your focus points back. Ooh, that is a powerful single action. That is a crazy powerful single action once every 10 minutes, which essentially is once a combat. Once a combat, you're like, nah, I'm just going to heal up and get everything back. Don't worry about it. Reduce my frighten level or whatever. Feeling good. So, yeah, really strong stuff for the Puppeteer itself. And last but not least, I want to go through some of what I think are really great grave spells, your focus spells, that fit the Puppeteer nicely. A lot of the focus spells are really good. So if it's not on here, it doesn't mean it's not good. It doesn't mean only a Reaper gets out of it. These are just some I'm calling out. There are so many good focus spells. Seriously, look at all of them. They might all be in contest for your feats because that's how you get them. All right, the earliest one here is Zombie Horde. This is for focus rank 3, so level 6 here. And it's going to create an area of difficult terrain. And then one action per round, you can actually move it around, right? When you're sustaining it, you can move it around. It's a great fit on Puppeteer because you want to control the battlefield as much as you can, and this allows you to just move it around for one action. You could be moving this around for difficult terrain while creating thralls and then using thralls to attack things. And yeah, moving yourself around to keep yourself mobile. But this is a nice thing to keep going to help control your battlefield and help the allies out. I think it's a really good fit for Puppeteer, especially who can kind of sit back and really navigate the battlefield best. Then we've got Conglomerate of Limbs, which is a focus. Uh, which is a rank 4 focus spell, level 8 to get this one. So here you've got a hefty thrall that is great either way, right? But you're going to want to use Thrall Charge because Thrall Charge is what you get the most out of with this, as it's going to go ahead and attack multiple creatures. And the Puppeteer has no issues with this because there's no multiple attack penalty to contend with, right? You aren't trying to make an attack after you've done this. You're saying, hey, my Thralls get to use the multiple attack penalty. I don't care about that. I'm just going to go ahead and have this thing tumbling around, dealing damage a little chunkier, make it a threat on the battlefield. And I like that. You know, there's something I actually brought up in my video from before, which is Blossoming Gore. This is another area control focus spell. This is a focus rank 5, so you're going to get it at level 10. And it fits more in line with what puppeteers are really focusing on again, right? It's easy for a puppeteer to place this in various locations, but this is even more dangerous, right? You definitely don't want to have to cross this yourself and don't want your allies having to go into this. And it's hard if you're trying to get up in melee, but if you're not trying to get up to anything in melee, yeah, you want to create kind of a setup where your allies can take most advantage by kind of being on the border of it and trying to push enemies back into it, but you don't want to have to contest with that. You just want to set all this up and let it play out while you control the battlefield. And the final one I want to bring up here is Flesh Tsunami. This is a focus rank 8, so a level 16 here, but you're going to go ahead and create this cone of damage. It's pretty good damage, and it's a pretty big cone. And you're choosing it from a thrall, right? At the same time, you can protect your allies in there by destroying a second thrall within while you cast this. Setting this up as a puppeteer is a joke. You can easily create thralls in such a way that you can know exactly what cone you're going to build and protect your allies and still have a thrall left over. Or, again, the two thrall thing, sum them up, have one attack. You're going to blow that one up to turn it into a cone and use the other one to protect your allies in that cone. That is a very cool way to deal damage while also using your thralls in an intelligent way. And maybe you're also creating some difficult terrain with the thralls you're destroying or healing yourself at the same time. So, Flesh Tsunami, I think a pretty cool damage spell with your focus points. Now, when we look a little bit beyond that and look at archetypes, I just focus on multi-class archetypes. There's just so many archetypes. I'm not going to run through them all, or I'd never give a good rundown. There's just way too many. When we're looking at multi-class archetypes, though, the way that you work as a puppeteer, probably staying more at range, probably leaning into your casting a little bit more, and you're probably really well equipped to gain advantages from other spellcasting classes that use intelligence, right? Maybe you take wizard to gain access to some arcane spells. Maybe you want, well, okay, psychic seems like a little bit of weird choice, but you could if you wanted some cantrips that are a little bit stronger, right? That's certainly an option. Witch is a great choice. You can choose primal, you can choose arcane, you can choose divine. Lots of options there. So I think leaning into casters with intelligence is a really good choice. Yes, you could do something like a magus, but I just don't think you're set up to get the most out of that. I think taking one of those pure caster ones is a great option. Now, on the other side of things, there are others that you could take that aren't caster focused. Maybe give yourself a little better defenses and things like that. But I wouldn't. I would lean into what makes you good as a puppeteer. And I'd say really look at some of these. My go-to would almost certainly be taking something that can give you an arcane set of spells because the arcane list is just so good. But maybe if you really just want more explosive damage, you can go primal. Primal has some cool options that don't fit what you're doing, but and they can still do some control in the terrain. But I just think arcane's a really good choice. So I would say look at those when you're looking to multi-class archetype. And other than that, yeah, we've got a really strong setup with Puppeteer. I love what they do. I love the extra thralls. I love how much you can get out of destroying your thralls. How well it lines up with so many of our subclasses. Puppeteer gives you a really interesting play style, but keep in mind, next video we're going to talk about Reaper, and Reaper offers very interesting things as well. So I think you'd love a Puppeteer, and maybe next time we'll see if I love or hate the Reaper. But until then, keep checking out all the videos coming out about this book from, sure, myself. I mean, by all means, please do watch my videos and please do subscribe. That's awesome. Thank you so much, everybody who has. It just means a lot just because it feels like I'm helping people, and that's really what I'm here to do. But there are so many great videos coming out from everybody else in this space. Seriously, I have been impressed by this release like none in the past. Everybody's on board. Everybody's creating just such valuable videos. Check them all out. I certainly do. They're amazing. They're all really great content creators, meaning everybody else. I exist, but they're really good at this. So check all these out. And as always, adventure on.